Hola, buenas noches. Espero que estén bien. Hope you guys are doing well. In today's class, we kind of did a little bit of a lot of different things and jumped around a lot. So I'll do my best to give you a summary and hopefully some activities that you can work on to get caught up if you missed tonight's class. So for pronunciation practice, we are making the transition into just doing words and doing words that are unfamiliar and a little bit longer so that you can really practice what you've learned and put those sounds into practice. So what I really want you to focus on is not just memorizing words that you have heard before and knowing how they sound, but really memorizing those sounds themselves. And if the practice in class hasn't been enough and you still feel a little uncomfortable with those sounds, I recommend listening to that 5-minute pronunciation practice, which is a recording from earlier this week in class. And that goes through all of the sounds in Spanish. It's a great thing. It's 5 minutes. If you can listen to it every day and kind of practice along with it, that'll help you a lot. And so we did that a little in class today. We'll do some more of that tomorrow in class. We also did a lot of vocabulary review today. So we did some review of our AR verbs. We played bingo with AR verbs just to get a little practice. So make sure that you've studied those. We've had now 3 days of vocabulary that's just all verbs. So make sure you're making those flashcards, looking up in the group and giving those, even if it's only 10 minutes a day that you're studying, just a little extra study time outside of class to help you familiarize yourself with those and really memorize them. And then we also learned about the verb gustar today. And the concept of me gusta is something that the textbook, Easy Spanish Step by Step, doesn't address until way later on. But I wanted to at least touch on it in this class because although the grammar concept is somewhat complicated, it's something that is so common, will come up all the time. And I wanted you guys to at least have some level of familiarity with it. And then when you're in your own independent studying and kind of transitioning to learning that way, you can go more into depth in the grammar as you get to that point later on in the book. So we use this sample sentence, me gusta bailar, which the best way to say this or translate it into English so that it sounds natural would be, I like to dance. But actually, the way that we express that sentiment in Spanish is a little bit different. So start out here, we have the verb bailar. And notice that we just have it in its original form. Sometimes we call this the infinitive form with an AR, IR, or ER at the end. We're not changing that. We're not conjugating it at all. We just have the to form, sometimes you'll call it because it's to dance. So to dance pleases. So the verb gustar doesn't actually mean to like. It means to please. So it's not me doing the liking of something. That something is pleasing me. So we're going to conjugate it here in the third person form. The third person is what we use for he, she, it, or the usted form. So that's that formal you that we're going to use in maybe a customer service situation or with someone who's older that we want to show respect to. That's third person singular. So we're going to have gusta, to dance, pleases me. Oh, my little face is in the way there. So me is what we're going to use anytime we're talking about things that we like, things that are pleasing to us. That's as far as we're going to get with it in this class. We will see kind of in passing, even later on in today's class, what it sounds like when you talk about what other people like, either in the you form or the third person form, he, she, or it, or usted. But we're not going to focus on that too much. I mostly want you to just be able to talk about things that you like and to recognize this format and just recognize the differences in the structure between Spanish and English. So here's another sentence. We've got me gusta la playa. I like the beach was how we would say that in English, right? But in Spanish, we have the beach. So it's anytime we're talking about something that's a noun, we need to include that article. So here it's feminine, so we're going to use la, and playa. Pleases, again, we're using that third person form, the conjugation for gustar, which is gusta, and pleases me. All right, when this changes is when we're talking about liking something that is plural. So here we have me gustan los perros. I like the dogs, or in Spanish, the dogs. Please, so in this case, we're still using third person, but this is the plural form. So they, right? We're using that to replace the dogs, or they please me, and me there at the end. So we did a little bit of practice with this in class today. It's really the only practice we're going to get with this concept of me gusta. Like I said, we're not diving into it too deep, but I felt that the class would be incomplete without addressing it, at least in some capacity. So the two activities that we did were, the first one, I believe, is on page 10. And the numbering in the packet, you'll notice around these pages 9, 10, and 11 gets a little funky. It repeats. So this is the page that actually doesn't have a number at the bottom at all, but it should be right after the second page 10, which is that yo nunca, yo casi nunca, yo a veces page. And it says here at the top, me gusta in a big box. And at the bottom, there's another big box that says no me gusta. And there's a bunch of different vocabulary with pictures and the word all around the page. So on this page, we practiced using me gusta and also the negative form, which is just no in front of it. So no me gusta, which you'll see here. First with a verb. So my example was me gusta cantar. And if you scroll back in the group chat on Facebook, you'll see that I took a picture of this and sent it to you guys as kind of a reference. So that was my verb. Remember, we're keeping it in the AR form, that infinitive form. No need to change the verb at all because we're already conjugating the verb gustar. And you're not going to ever put two verbs that are conjugated or changed next to each other in a sentence. So me gusta cantar, I like to sing. Then one sentence with me gusta and a singular noun. So remember, we're always going to put the article here. Our example that we used before was me gusta la playa, but I also wrote an example sentence, which was me gusta el helado. I like ice cream. Or here in Mexico, you'll hear it called nieve. So I put both of those translations down on the page for you. And the last sample sentence was similar here to me gustan los perros, me gustan las montañas. I like the mountains. So for this one, remember we have to add the N at the end because we're talking about they, right? We're talking about that third person, but plural form. So anything that's plural, we need to use gustan instead of gusta. So go ahead and do that activity. And then you're going to do the same exact thing at the bottom where it says no me gusta or no me gustan. One verb that you don't like, one activity you don't like to do, one noun, and you can use any of the food vocabulary we've already learned in class, or you can use any of the vocabulary that's kind of just randomly scattered throughout this page. And then one plural noun. So something on the page that's already plural. We've got los gatos, las montañas, los serpientes, los perros. Or if there's something else, another example that you want to translate and use, that's great too. So take a picture of both of those boxes and you can send them to me either directly or in the group chat, or you can post them on the Facebook page and I will give you feedback on that. We also played the Me Gusta board game, which is in the very back of the packet. You roll a dice, land on an object, and then just tell your partner me gusta or no me gusta, depending on your opinion of that thing, just to continue practicing, knowing when to switch between gusta and gustan, and then getting some extra practice with that vocabulary. So You can practice that with someone at home, by yourself, or you can just kind of go through that board game and without necessarily practicing like rolling the dice and practicing, kind of just mentally go through it and either write some additional sentences or just do that verbally. That'd be great practice for me gusta, no me gusta. We also did some pronunciation practice. We had our first set of dialogues. So that is on the following page, page 12. And just went through and read, kind of saw how much of that you could understand. There's definitely going to be some new vocabulary there, but there should also be a good amount of words that you recognize at this point. So just kind of seeing if you can kind of get the gist. It'd be great to just read through those on your own, especially aloud, just getting more practice reading Spanish and speaking Spanish aloud. And we also did our very first writing assignment today. So I'll post this in the Facebook group so that you can reference it if you'd like to do this activity. But on the next page, page 13, we did the activity postales, which was to create a postcard for a place that you visit every year. And if there isn't a specific spot you visit every year, it's okay to make this up. It will be useful to do it for a place that you've been before because you'll have some more information on it. And the basic guideline is at the top, you'll see it says, cada año voy a, and I put cada año voy a San Diego. So you can just put the name of the place that you visit here and then a period. And then you're going to write 3 sentences, and these are in no particular order, but one of them you're going to use me gusta or me gustan, and something referring to your trip, something you like about that place. And 2 of your sentences are going to use the simple present. So I underlined in my example some sentence starters that might be useful for you. You don't necessarily have to use them, but could be a good and simple way to structure your writing. So I put yo siempre, and that's a word that we saw earlier on in the week, which means I always. And the following word after that is going to be a verb in the first person. So in that yo form, the I form, right? I always do X. So I put yo siempre veo un partido de béisbol. I always see a baseball game. And then I started my second sentence in simple present the same way. Yo siempre corro en la playa. I always run on the beach. And my last sentence, and again, these don't necessarily have to be in this order. You can mix them up if you'd like. I put me gusta el sol. I like the sun. So this would be great. You can use a translator if you want to look up some words and add in some vocabulary. The link to SpanishDict.com is pinned at the top of announcements on our Facebook group page. Like I said, that's a great translator because it just gives you a little bit of extra context and explanation. So I'd recommend using that. And then in the other box on the page, you can just draw the front of the postcard if you want to, and just kind of give us a little sketch of this place that you visit every year, either fictional or true. And our very last activity of the night was an introduction to an online resource. Like I said, we have already talked about using Spanish Dict as a translator, but they also have other resources for learning Spanish and give me as a teacher the option to create a classroom and customize assignments for you, which I've based on the work that we're doing in this class. So our last little bit, I gave everyone a chance to kind of enter in there. If you click on that link, and I'll show you here. Oops. It's hard because I can't manipulate my URL bar with the Zoom thing in the way. I'll show you on Facebook. Where it is. So right in the chat, . You'll see here the link SpanishDict.com/assignment with a number there. If you click on that, and I'll open it in a different browser where I'm not already logged in, hopefully. I am. Can't sign up. So once you visit that link, it'll prompt you to create an account, and this is all free. You can log in through Google, through Facebook, through Apple, or if you, for security reasons, don't like linking your accounts, you can create a separate Spanish Dict account. And when you go through and do that, it'll take you to the assignment and to the rest of our classroom. This particular assignment is a review of all of the vocabulary that we have learned so far. It's really great because it gives you a visual, and then you type in the word and then it says the word for you too, and it's pre-recorded with a native Spanish speaker saying it. So it's just great practice hearing the correct pronunciation of that word and reviewing all that vocabulary. Just another tool for you in addition to your flashcards that hopefully you're making at home every night. There's 36 words on there so far. And as we transition from our daily classes into your independent study, I'll also post additional resources on there for vocabulary and grammar for you to study on your own. So great thing for you to get started now, create an account and just get a little practice with. All right, and that was our class for tonight. Hope you guys have a good night and I will see you tomorrow. Buenas noches.